J-Mo here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Liverpool preview. Joining me as always is my good friend and colleague, Joe Smith.
Yep.
Joe, it's United versus Liverpool.
But not as you know it. Were you tempted at all to just put out the last Liverpool preview we did that never got used?
We've done all this.
Yeah.
We've done it all.
We did this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we literally sat here, did a Liverpool preview, and then the game didn't happen for some reason.
Can't remember why.
I can't think it was... it's gone. It'll come to me. But yes, United are playing the Scousers at Old Trafford.
Yes.
Unlike the last preview that we filmed for this game, the league title, which we already knew anyway, is officially done. We're not going to win that.
Not just yet.
Yeah, you've not given up hope.
Just because they've mathematically won the league doesn't mean we can't still win it.
That is a good point, and it's that negative thinking that gets me nowhere in life. I need to stop it and be a little bit more positive, like Joe there. He's got a good point there, that even though it's mathematically impossible, doesn't mean 21 still isn't coming this season.
Yeah.
We can, though, right, and this is right up my street, stop the Scousers from getting top four.
Wonderful.
I mean,
what a wonderful turn of events.
But people say, are you that sad and pathetic that that's what gets you up in the morning? Yeah.
Also, anyone who says that, what are you on about? Anyone that supports any football team, anyone that works for any business, anyone that's got any mate or a bloke they don't like in the fucking pub, everyone is vengeful and petty and nasty. In this sort of thing, in a sort of, generally speaking, it doesn't really matter in world terms whether Liverpool get the Champions League or not. We're not like, there's no pain being caused here. It's literally, you can laugh at Liverpool fans and they have to play in a second-rate competition and they're like, it's a joke in sport. It doesn't matter. Anyone who's home going, oh, really? Is that all you care about? Yes! Of course it is! And that's all you would care about if it was your team. And if you were an Arsenal fan, we could stop Tottenham doing it. If you were a fucking Ipswich fan and you could stop Norwich doing it, it would be great. Everyone's like this.
Yep.
So anyone that says, well, really, you care about... Yes, we do. And anyone would be the same for their club. Or really, you care about stopping Barry getting that? Yeah, I'm going to buy a Vauxhall Astra just so Barry the dickhead can't have that same Vauxhall Astra. I don't even want a Vauxhall. I was going to get a Volvo, but I'm going to get it now because Barry's a dick and I'm going to get the car he wanted. People are like that all the time.
Drive past his house, dead, slow. Wash it every day.
Yeah.
Hey, Barry, you all right? Just washing me car
what
again.
You got there? The insignia. Sorry about that, pal. Anyway, I'll be getting off. Got the sport pack on this. Oh, did you know about this one? Sport pack 168 BHP, mate. Not bad at all. Yeah, so fuck that. We can stop Liverpool getting Champions League football. Bring it on.
Bring it on, indeed. United go into this game in patchy form, shall we say.
Yes.
You look at it there, it's on the screen. A draw against Leeds, the most boring game in the history of association football, so we can forget about that.
Yep.
6-2 against Roma, loss against Roma that didn't really matter because of the 6-2, a win against Villa, and United's children and Rezzies losing to Leicester.
Yeah. It's good, really. I mean, it's not good, but if you're ever going to lose before a big match, it might as well be that none of the people who will start this game started that game, except maybe Mason Greenwood.
No,
but it's not like United play. I know that toward the end there was a couple of players on, but it's not like Rashford and Pogba and Lindelof are going to have lost confidence because of that Leicester game. They weren't there. It was obvious. I don't ever believe United are trying to not win a game. I don't think Ole was trying to not win that game. But he had to rotate players. He had to rest people. If he wanted a chance of beating Liverpool, who were in decent form at the minute themselves, we had to make some changes. So the fact that team lost as I think anyone who watched that game, whether you're a United fan or not, we were saying it upstairs before, it felt almost nothing like any game I've ever watched, any competitive game I've ever watched. It was like a reserve game or a pre-season tour match or something. Just not just the way it was being played, but how I felt watching it. It was bizarre, wasn't it? Yeah. So I don't really necessarily think that loss will carry through mentally and mentality-wise into this match, do you?
No, not at all. It was really weird. It's weird because had we had fans in the ground, I think we could have won that game. Yeah. I do. I think the fans would have been up for it, got behind that team, youngsters and everything, which is what, your fans love all that. They probably get a little bit of a spring in the step. But I know everyone's not got fans and it's like, oh, if that was me auntie had bollocks, she'd be my uncle and all that sort of jazz. But yeah, it just felt like a training game with the Rezzies. And also, like, at the end of it was like, well, City have won the league now. And again, though, and I'm not just being like, oh, I don't care, but we knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Like, we've known that pretty much for me nailed on since we lost to Sheffield United. That was the end of that.
Yeah.
So
the Everton one was the one for me.
Well, if anyone wants to see three people just devastated for whatever reason, you watch the end of the Everton game. Me, him, and McCullough just silence basically because we were just like
that's that.
Yeah,
that's where you felt it like it slipped away.
Pit in your stomach. Yeah. This is the end of that. But we still have something to play for in terms of we still can get second. There's something to play for. That'd be progress on last season and stopping the Scousers. If either of those two things or both of those two things are going to happen, then one man who could have a big say in that is Edinson Cavani. He came on the other night, but he was a cameo really when it was 25, 30 minutes, whatever it was. He's been on fire. He signed a new deal. He's got the best chant in the history of football.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a start on it. I mean, I know we'll get to the predicted 11s later, but you'd expect Edinson to lead the line, especially after Mason Greenwood just played in that game against Leicester.
Yeah, I think he'll come back for sure. And the contract thing is a big thing, and that will... I mean, obviously he will have known he was signing that contract a few days or a week or 2 weeks or so before the news was released because, these decisions, as anyone knows, are made a little bit in advance. And I think that his upturn in form isn't, it's not a coincidence that has also coincided with what appears to be an upturn in, his faith in United, his commitment to United. I think those two things have gone hand in hand. One has caused the other and vice versa. So I think it's great what we're seeing from Cavani at the moment. And 15 goals in, I think, 36 appearances, which I think that doesn't, that's not bad by itself. But when you take into account that... he's not really had a lot of minutes, and I think he scored 5 goals off the bench. So he's been sub a lot of times this season. So really, per minute, or I think it's something like a goal or assist every 100 minutes or something for United this season, which is exceptional, especially for someone of his age, and also someone that came in so late. He didn't have a pre-season. He didn't have a chance to gel with the team. He didn't have a chance to learn the tactics for a month or so before the season started. So he's coming in. He's essentially hit the ground running when he's been able to play. So he's the key for me. He's United's number 9. He's United's first choice number 9 now, and I think there's a marked and obvious difference between him and other strikers we've had in recent years. He's just on another level in terms of his movement and his clinical finishing. 32% shot accuracy this season as well, which is just brilliant.
No, he has, and as you mentioned there, I think it's 5 goals off the bench this season, which equals Javier Hernandez's record.
And when I say shot accuracy, by the way, I mean conversion rate. Yeah. So he scores with every 3 shots, essentially, which is that good? Exceptional, really is.
Okay, for the layman amongst us. So that's, listen, he's given us a lift.
Yeah.
He has. And where would we be without him? Like Odion Ighalo, when he came in, was like, and bear with me here because people will already be going, what the fuck are you comparing them to for? But Odion Ighalo came in, we bought into Odion because he was such a big United fan, he's Insta, and he scored some goals in Europe. Yeah. But he wasn't a player you could rely on. And he wasn't a player that was a first-team player by any stretch of the imagination. And Edinson Cavani's come in, and he's become a first-team player. And I think if everyone's fit, he's our number 9. I really do. And I love Anthony Martial, and I love Mason Greenwood, but I think he's made that position his own. He's earned that contract extension as well, because United, you have a good 45 minutes, they'll give you a 5-year deal. But he's earned that. He's got the fans buzzing. I can't wait to get into the ground if we end up going in the ground when he's there and get behind him. So yeah, it has been a good news story. And I think he's one of those players that the team's fair.
Yeah,
you can see he's like a name where you look, I've got Mark Edinson Cavani today. I'm up against it here.
Especially with Liverpool centre backs.
Who have they got? Is it Phillips?
Gomez, Phillips, Clavan, who might be injured. I think that without Van Dijk, I think they're very thin centre backs. Whereas Matip as well is a decent option, but I think the true top class centre back they've got is Van Dijk, and I think the rest of them are much worse than he is.
Yeah,
I think Gomez is decent. I think Matip is decent. I think the rest of them are worse than decent. So yeah, I think they're going to really struggle with the movement of Cavani because. I watch, not just me, but anyone who watches football, it's not just like at United where Cavani's movement stands out. His movement stands out compared to any striker in the world. Like these lads won't have played against many strikers in their careers with the movement of Cavani. He's one of the most elite goal scorers in the last decade for a reason. So it's going to be a real challenging test for Liverpool's defence, which is obviously a great thing for United.
No, you always point out the fact that some of the headers he scores, there's no one quite on him.
No,
he's not challenged.
Yeah.
It's a free header, and you're like, how's that happen? Because as you said, his movement is phenomenal. At the other end of the pitch, you've got our main defender, if you could say that, well, I think he is our main defender, and certainly our main centre back. Harry Maguire is obviously out, so it's up to his partner to sort of lead the defence. Victor Lindelof. Me and you've spoken a lot about Victor Lindelof.
Look at this Lonely Hearts post in here. Look.
Lindelof in need of new partner.
Yeah, seeking tall, strapping replacement. My boyfriend's out of town.
Yeah,
my boyfriend's fallen ill and he can't please me anymore. Do you know what I mean?
No strings.
No strings attached. Ideally capable of battering the police if he has to. And I'm not talking about the singers. Like, fucking hell, Lindelof in need of a new partner. I like that.
We're running some sort of dating app here on Stretford Paddock. Victor Lindelof isn't in need of a new sexual partner.
No.
He's in need of a new defensive partner. Yeah. What do you make of Victor Lindelof this season? Because
must be good with his head.
Yes. Must be willing to travel. Filth. He's almost like an easy target for everyone because Harry Maguire's not going anywhere. Harry Maguire's having a good season. The fullbacks, Luke Shaw's been pretty phenomenal of late. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, pretty solid. I think he's had a good season. A lot of people look at Lindelof as the weak link of that back four. But even if he is, does that mean he's a poor player? If you get what I mean. Yeah. You can still be the weak link and be a good player. But do you think Lindelof's having a good season? Where do you stand with him?
I think he's having a pretty good season. Yeah, actually, I do think he's having a good season.
Yep.
I think he offers a lot more than people think. And I think one thing with defenders, and especially people who, I know a lot of people who watch him every week don't like him. I know that that's the case. But I think when the opinions that come up on social media, when I think it's people that don't watch the match every week, and it's often not even United fans who sort of, propagate these rumours and then they're then spread from there. Not rumours, but just opinions. This thing that he never wins a ball in the air, this thing that he's always pushed about, those are his weaknesses. And occasionally, like we saw against West Brom, wasn't it? Where he was fouled, let's be honest. But even so, he wasn't quite strong enough to overcome the fact that he was fouled because that's the expectation. The other day against Villa, he put a bit of a half tackle in against Traore.
No, that's a good point.
Traore gets the ball back and he puts it in the top corner. And then there's another one later in the game where he puts another half tackle in. These are his weaknesses. And he does make these mistakes. And he will make them half a dozen or a dozen times throughout a season, which is too many to consider him one of the best centre-backs in the world. But I don't think just because you're not one of the best centre-backs in the world, you're therefore shit and worthless and couldn't be part of a winning team. And we've said it a million times on here. I think he's more than capable of being the partner to someone who, the last 4 or 5 months of Harry Maguire, if we're getting that player regularly every week, I think those two are more than good enough to win big trophies together. So yes, he's not as good as Maguire. Yes, there are better centre-backs in the world. Yes, United could maybe even improve on him this summer if they want to go out and spend 60 million like City did last season, getting Ruben Dias in. But I don't think that he's a big problem defensively. And personally, I have more faith in him to not make mistakes than I do any of our other centre-backs, even when they are fit, that aren't named Harry Maguire. So I think he'll be the sort of the leader in the defence back there next to Bailly, or certainly the player that gets more games, that is slightly higher up in the pecking order at United. And I think he's a good player, but like I said, he's got very obvious known weaknesses that actually he isn't exploited in as often as it seems like he is, because when he is, it just goes bananas. Oh, he's been beaten in the air again. Well, it doesn't happen every week, does it?
No.
But when it does, it looks really bad.
No, I agree with all that. I think that, people look at City, for example. John Stones, it took him 3 years to settle. Laporte, who was apparently the best defender since Yap Stam.
Yeah.
He, when everyone was fit now, couldn't even get in the team. I think it's Stones and Diaz. So it's not the case if you go out there, you buy someone, they're going to be automatically straight in your team and successful and better than what you've got. And I think Victor Lindelof has had a decent United career. Me and Steve and Maka were on the podcast the other day, and I think the season where Ollie came in, Lindelof was our most consistent player, I feel, because he was one of the few players that actually put in some good performances under both Ollie and Jose. Yeah. When it was like Pogba was like amazing for sort of 15 games, and arguably, I know Maka and yourself thought he was player of the year because of that. Me, I just felt for sort of a sheer consistency throughout the season, I would have had Lindelof as my particular pick, because I thought he gave you sort of 7 out of 10 every game at a time as well when a lot of players weren't. Yes, he's got flaws. I'm not going to pretend he hasn't, but I'm with you. I think he's a good player, and I think if we had a great DM like we should have, instead of having to play 2 players in that role, or two players who aren't really suited to that role sort of playing in that position, then it'd be different. And I think you could get away with it, because we always talk about, like Leicester's a great example. Where's Morgan, Robert, who've won the league. Maguire and Lindelof, they better than that.
I mean, even look at like Otamendi.
Yeah.
An average defender. I wouldn't swap him for Otamendi, Lindelof.
No.
And yet he's won 2, maybe 3 league titles for City. Same with Liverpool. I wouldn't swap Joe Gomez for Lindelof.
No.
I wouldn't swap Matip for Lindelof. And yet, they won the league last season alongside Van Dijk. So yeah, I don't think he's some massive problem. And hopefully, if we can get the right pieces around the defence, or maybe improve on him if we can, I think we'll be good.
I think we will agree with all that. With it all being said, then we'll go into our starting 11s.
Yeah,
we obviously rested everyone for the Leicester game, and pretty much rightly so, considering the games are coming thick and fast, ridiculously so, with 5 games in 3 days, whatever it is. So I think we've got mine up first there. This is a treat for me. So there's my predicted 11. I've gone with who I think will play.
So have I.
Oh, right. So we've both done our predicted, not our preferred. So this is who we think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will pick for the visit of Liverpool. I've gone with Dean Henderson in goal because he's the first choice keeper if it's a league game. Luke Shaw, Eric Bailly because there's no Harry Maguire. Victor Lindelof for the reasons we've already discussed. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he plays, doesn't he? He plays every game. It's especially unless we're resting people, which we're not. McFred, as I said earlier, they're sort of holding midfielders, if you can call them that. I've gone with Paul Pogba on the left, Bruno in the 10, Marcus Rashford on the right, and Edinson Cavani as the 9.
Before we dissect any of these picks, Jay, can we have a look at my team?
Go on, stick your team up there.
Show me my team. It's exactly the same.
Wow, that's a first for me.
I think that's the first time that's ever happened.
Me and you have never had the same team.
No.
I would say the reason we've both got the same team, and you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, is because we saw what Ollie did the other night. You know he's going to go full strength. The only player that was a first-team player that played was Mason Greenwood, which limits your options in terms of what you can do, because you've got no Andy Marshall, you've got no Dan James.
No.
So that's it.
Yeah, most of these, Henderson seemingly is our first choice goalkeeper now. Wan-Bissaka, of course. Lindelof, of course. Luke Shaw, of course. Bailly is one where you think, well, usually he doesn't play twice in 2 days because it's, Bailly and his fitness record isn't great, but he's our best option available. And Twanzebe also doesn't do that because of his fitness record. Phil Jones isn't even in the picture at the minute, so he has to play. Fred and McTominay play all the big games.
Yep.
Rashford plays all the big games. Bruno plays all the big games. Pogba, I think, like you said, it's between him and Greenwood played 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So he's playing, and then we've only got Cavani up front. So this team picks this. I'll be surprised if anyone predicted a team other than that. What would you even possibly pick?
Like, you might try and move some of those players around and say, okay, maybe Pogba goes over to the right and Mark's on the left, but I don't see that happening.
Or maybe we'll do a diamond with Rashford and Cavani up front with the diamond behind. But that personnel is, it almost has to pick itself, doesn't it? Which is a difficult, because, once it's a nice thing in one way because you've got a strong team and most of those players have rested, other than Eric Bailly pretty much. But on the other hand, that's all we've got.
Yeah.
Because Diallo isn't fit enough to do that. Even if he was good enough, he's played about 4 games this season. He's not. Van der Beek, the same. Mason Greenwood, you could maybe make a case that you think Greenwood would play. But I think looking at who was left out, I don't think he will. So that's just it, isn't it?
And also, I feel with Mason, there's almost a duty of care as your manager. Like, he's still only 19 years old. He's still played, Sunday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you're throwing him in on a Thursday as well.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I know he's full of beans and he looks after himself, and he's a 19-year-old athlete. Of course, he probably physically can, but he'd be goosed. And it's not a good look to be playing a kid like that 3 times in a week, in less than a week.
It's easy to forget as well. That front line the other night, Elanga, 19, Diallo, 18. They both seem like children who have, they barely played for United. Elanga never played for United. Diallo never played in the Premier League. Mason Greenwood is also 19. He's played 100 times for Manchester United.
That's
so we almost
ridiculous.
Forget just how inexperienced in terms of not just not on the pitch, in terms of life. He's literally only just not a child. So there's got to be some protection and some way of bringing this guy through that isn't just play 3 games in 5 days because you're quite good. So, for me, there's no way he starts.
It's mad that you're 19 years old and you've played 100 times for Manchester United.
As a striker as well, or an attacker.
What were you doing when you were 19?
When I was 19, I was just deciding what shade of jeans would get me the most girls. The answer was, doesn't matter, none. So I went tight, I went loose. I went elasticated so I could do high kicks on the dance floor. Kicked a couple of drinks out of people's hands by accident, nearly got into a fight. Just settled down.
Happy days.
Yeah. What were you doing when you were 19?
Community service.
I thought you were conscription. You were signed up for the Great War, weren't you, as they called it then?
I was. I think that was me. I was doing community service. But on the plus side, the canals never look so clean. Right. So let's move on to Liverpool. Talking of community service, Liverpool. They can see their last 5 results. All a bit, okay, yeah, well done.
Soz hard.
Yeah.
Won 4 of our last 5 games in the league. Wow.
Oh, look at that. We're just going to, beat Southampton and draw with Newcastle and Leeds and... What? Oh, yeah, Real Madrid there. They played them, didn't they, in the Champions League?
Yeah. That was ages ago.
I know, yeah. They don't bother these lot. What? And they beat Villa. So, I mean, it's okay. It's not that impressive. They've sort of been better, haven't they, recently? Because they had that horrendous run
where they lost 6 home games in a row. Which is fucking
amazing.
Bonkers.
That's like I don't think it's ever happened before anyway. But I couldn't have even imagined that. I was like, someone said, "What if they? No, that's not going to happen."
Well, they haven't lost
stupid.
They're undefeated in like 55 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
and then they lose 6 in a row in their next like 10.
When we drew them, I got quite defensive about that result. I was like, "That's a good result. They've just won 50, or they've not been beaten 55 games on the trot at Anfield. You can't start having a go at Ollie because he didn't beat Liverpool, and then they went and lost the next fucking 6.
Yeah,
just to make me look stupid.
They did.
One man who's been a part of the revolution this season at Anfield, or for the Scousers, has been Thiago Alcantara, a player that I would have had at Old Trafford. I like this guy, but since he's gone to Liverpool, and it's not really his fault, but things haven't been going well for that team, have they?
No.
You mentioned those 6 Anfield defeats. I think he was there for all of them. You can see there from the stats, 21 Premier League appearances, 1 goal, which was last week, I think. No assists.
Those are Fred numbers.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, with not that I want to big up any Liverpool player particularly, he's a very good player, but he just doesn't suit their system.
No.
Their system is high pressing, quick turnovers. I know they keep the ball more now than they used to, but that is because of personnel like him. Get the ball in the box quickly from the wings, attackers, goals scored within 20 seconds of winning the ball. That's their style, or had been their style. Then you bring someone in who's a sort of, not just a ball-playing midfielder, but a ball-wanting midfielder.
Yeah.
Like, he wants the one, back to me, one, back to me, one, back to me, bit of space through, didn't quite work, let's cycle it back to me. He's just sort of your pivot, your anchor, that everything plays through, in not the same quality, but almost that sort of Paul Scholes way, where you're like, he's the hub that everything is attached to, he's the roundabout, and he picks where the roads are going. That isn't really how Liverpool play.
No.
That's why he's not been particularly effective. That's why Liverpool have been, one of the reasons they've been losing games, obviously it's these horrendous injuries they've had as well.
They've got injuries?
Well, a couple.
You should talk about that a bit more.
They should mention it. People might give him a bit of credit.
I don't even know what happened to Virgil van Dijk until you told me earlier.
No, exactly. It's terrible, isn't it?
Know anything about that.
No. A terrible accident that befell him. But he's a good player. He's one to watch out for. But to be honest, I think he would have suited United style more than he'd suit theirs.
I couldn't agree more. I would have had him at United in 2013
or
when we were linked with him.
Imagine him at City. Like that, he would be perfect for them, and obviously Pep knows him. But yeah, it was a weird move because he's a great player. He allows them to do something a bit different, but that team isn't quite ready to just throw up the rule book and start again in a new system. And thank God.
I know. Yeah.
So in a way, he would have suited United better, but I'm glad he went there.
I know, it's so weird to be saying that, isn't it? It's like, you can't imagine it, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
That we're actually glad that Liverpool signed Thiago Alcantara. Just looking at our head-to-heads, the last 5 times we've played each other, we obviously beat them in the FA Cup 3-2, one of the more memorable games we've had in recent years. The 0-0 draw at Anfield, the one that I was talking about earlier, that at the time I thought was good, but in retrospect was a pathetic result. We lost 2-0 last season, I think that is, yep. And then a couple of draws. So, I mean, it's been pretty sort of underwhelming, hasn't it, that run?
Well, the 2-0 was away at Anfield, wasn't it, when we were piling on the pressure they scored in the last minute. The 1-1, we should have won that, but was it Rojo turned off, switched off when the cross came in?
That was when they couldn't stop winning.
They'd literally won every single game that season.
Yeah, and I remember we took an early-ish lead through Marcus, and I remember being in the Stretford and just constantly looking at the clock, and it was like 68 minutes in, 70 minutes, 75 minutes, still 1-0. 85 minutes, I remember looking, and Ollie, and I still don't think he got this right, took Marcus off, brought on Anthony Martial, who for me isn't always an impact player when it's a high, frenetically paced game like it was.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him for the goal because it wasn't, but it upset things a little bit. They got a goal, and it was just very disappointing. The 0-0, I think, was that Battle of the Somme when everyone was injured, when Marcus was hobbling around and
maybe was it?
And
so I remember that because that was the season before now, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
and that was when we.
I'd have to look
more or
look
less.
it back
I
up.
think that's the one where we stopped them winning the league because we got 3 injuries in the first half.
Yeah,
Jesse came on and went off.
Herrera went off, didn't he? Rashford got injured but didn't come off
because there was no more subs we could make, so we had to hobble around. Yeah. And we managed to sort of grind it out. So yeah, not the best run of results from a United perspective, but we go into this game. Should be feeling a little bit more confident when you look at Liverpool's form this season, despite everyone touting them as the best Premier League team ever. They're not even in the top fucking 4. So with that in mind, give us your score prediction, my friend.
I'm gonna say, I don't know. Looking at those past 5 meetings, it don't look great for United. You don't immediately look at that and think, "Oh, that's good," but then it's no better for them than it is for us. It's literally equal.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily think that we've got it all to do. I think we're the better team. I think we have a better 11 than them, especially with their injuries. I think that we're on better form than they are. I know they've turned it around a little bit, but United have got a fortitude and a sort of a difficultness to beat. I know that's not a word or a phrase.
It is now.
And the Leicester game, I'm not even going to really... Obviously, we lost that game. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen. But I don't think...
Why not? Just do that. Pretend it didn't happen.
Actually, yeah.
Because the title race
this team, United's first 11, haven't lost in the league since the Sheffield United match.
That's a spirit.
I know I'm twisting reality a little bit there, but we all know what I mean. We played the reserves and we lost, but our first strength team is really difficult to beat these days, and I don't think Liverpool will beat us. I think we'll have too much going forward, especially if Cavani does start, if Rashford and Pogba all do start, and Bruno as well. I think we'll beat them. I think it'll be 2-0. What do you think?
I'll go 3-0. Cavani hat-trick.
Chuffing hell.
If the game goes ahead, of course, because there are protests planned ahead of the game, so who knows what that will entail, and we'll be there as well.
We're going to be taking bets on how many times we'll have to do this preview before the game actually gets played.
Second one.
Yes.
There'll be protests ahead of the game at 6 o'clock Thursday at Old Trafford. If you can physically get down there, then I encourage you to do so because, we're trying to get rid of the owners. We're trying to have a say in our football club. We're trying to send that message out there to them that it's not just about the European Super League. It's not just about transfers. It's been going on for 16 years. And we're going to keep protesting until they start listening to us fans because it's our club, not theirs. So 6 o'clock at Old Trafford. But if the game does go ahead, we'll have the watch-along for that as well. We'll be giving you updates from the protest and have the watch-along. Joe will be here for that. I think we've got Trevor coming down. And myself, I'll be here as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Go and find Joe on socials, Joe Smith 93. He's always doing good stuff on there. You know where to find me, Jay Motti. This has been the Stretford Paddock Liverpool preview. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.